Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're talking about the book of September/October for our 6 books for 2025 project. If you still haven't heard about the project, I'll link the playlist down below and up here as well. But I basically read a book every 2 months and talk to you guys about it, share my thoughts on the book and sometimes the movie, the adaptation. And I purposely chose a very, very scary book for the months of September and October for obvious reasons, but I was not expecting how scared I would be with this book. And that is because I've read other books from this author before, and although I was scared, I was not as scared as I was while reading this one. And I am talking about The Shining by Stephen King. Oh my goodness, you guys. Like I said, I didn't think it would be this scary, and I don't know if I said that already, but anyway, I didn't think it would be this scary, and also I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. I love Stephen King. Actually, that's kind of strong because I love some of his books. I like some of his books, and I don't like some other books of his, so I would say that I like him. Although I do love 2 books, which are Salem's Lot, my all-time favorite Stephen King novel, and Misery as well. So good, so good. They're amazing. They've always been on my top 3 up there, and I have other ones that I like as well, but oh yeah, I like Pet Sematary, but it's not my favorite. It's not even on my top 5, I think, to be honest. And I do like the short stories books, I have to say. I do like them, but I don't know why I wasn't expecting to like this book as much as I did. I think it might be because I really liked the movie, and I know that Stephen King hated the movie, and then he, did his own miniseries or something like that, I think, years later, and people said that it was really bad. So in my mind, I thought, okay, the movie's really good. He made another one that wasn't as good. Therefore, the book is not going to be as good as the movie. But although I still don't know if that's exactly true, they're different, and we're going to talk about that. I loved the book, and I was so scared. So first, we're going to talk about the story, and then the movie, and then the differences, and maybe the reason why Stephen King hated it so much. So yeah. Most of you have probably read it before because it's an older book. It's 1977, but well, not that old considering the books that we read. But well, it was kind of quite, how can I say, quite an event when it came out. And a lot of people read it immediately, and then people from my generation read it once they realized it was out there. And once they discovered Stephen King, it was one of the go-tos, and I, for some reason, have never picked it up. But yeah, we're going to talk about the story, like I said, and if you've read it, just bear with me. It won't be long, I promise. But okay, so The Shining, guys. First, we are following here a man named Jack Torrance and his family, Winifred, and Danny. And what we know about them, actually, the book starts with Jack alone, and he's at this interview, this job interview, and we know that he is applying for this job as a caretaker of a hotel, a big hotel in Colorado. And it starts creepy already because he's talking to this the manager of the hotel, Mr. Ullman, who I think Stephen King wanted us to hate, but I didn't hate him at all. I really disliked Jack, to be honest, from the beginning, okay, not just after he lost his mind. But yeah, they're talking, and he's just he's very uptight, this guy, this Mr. Ullman, and he's kind of annoying, but he just loves the hotel so much, and he loves his job, and he wants to make sure that Jack is the right person to take care of the hotel during the winter. So yeah, he has to be this is a job for the winter time, because the winter is so tough up there. It's up in the mountains. The name of the hotel is the Overlook Hotel. Stephen King made sure in the beginning of the book, actually in the first pages, he made sure to state that it is not about any hotel in the States in particular, but we don't know. Maybe he had one in mind and he was just trying to avoid any lawsuits. But yeah, it's up in the mountains and all the roads are closed during the winter. The winter is crazy, crazy, crazy intense. So they need someone to live in the hotel and take care of the boiler, take care of, heating up the place and fixing potential damages and so forth. So yeah, he applied for the job and now he's at the interview, and this guy seems to think that Jack is not the right person for the job. And why is that? Because Jack has a wife and a kid, and he thinks that it's dangerous to have a family up there. And Jack is like, oh, why is that? And he has to tell him then that the previous man, that I forgot the name, Mr. Grady, I think so, I forgot his first name, who was the caretaker years before, went bonkers, completely berserk, and killed his wife and 2 daughters. And Jack was like, oh yeah, I really didn't like what Jack said. He said something like, oh, did he have a high school diploma or something? And the manager was like, no. And he said, well, then that's the reason why he went crazy. The reason, because he had cabin fever, because if he was educated, he wouldn't have had, anyway, we know that that's not true. But he starts saying those things and says things like, oh, Mr. Ullman, I am a teacher. I'm a professor, okay? I think he's just a teacher. But I'm a writer, actually. I'm going to finish my play. I'm going to teach my kid how to read. There ain't no way that that's going to happen to us. And Mr. Ullman was like, all right, if you say so, but I still don't think you're right for the job, and I don't care if you don't like me. I'm just stating a fact that I don't think you're right for the job. So he gets the job because his buddy, his former drinking buddy, important to say, got him the job. He is a rich man. He was on the school board of the school that he got fired from. And he is also on the board of the hotel, like one of the owners of the hotel. And he got him the job. So backstory on Jack. Jack is a former alcoholic, or should I say still an alcoholic. And he was a teacher in this school, like fancy school. However, he was fired because he went completely berserk on this kid. It was a kid who was on the debate team, and he was the teacher, the leader of the team, Jack, and he didn't want the kid to be on the team because he stuttered. And then the kid got really mad and dug holes in his tires and in Jack's tires. And then when he saw that, he just went berserk and assaulted the kid. And obviously he got fired, but he thinks that, it was hasty of them to fire him. And also he thinks that it wasn't fair. You can tell Jack's character by the first chapter. It's just so clear to me since the beginning who Jack is, but you still root for him. You still want everything to be okay. But anyway, so we know that about him, and we know that he, like I said, is an alcoholic. He hasn't been drinking for, I think, the past 18 months or so, or 10 months, I don't remember now, but not long ago. And he stopped drinking because his wife, Wendy, wanted to leave him. And why is that? Well, he was not only an alcoholic, but he would stay out every single day with this drinking buddy, and they would like stay out super late, not come back home. Sometimes she'd be worried sick about him and taking care of their son, their 5-year-old Danny. And by the time actually Danny was 3 years old, Jack had a fit and he went berserk on Danny again. Actually, not again, because that was one of the first times that he had an episode. And it was really bad because Danny was, like I said, 3, and he was in his father's studio and going through his papers and just being a kid. And Jack got home, he was drinking a beer. Probably was wasted by then, but he was drinking a beer, and then he went to his study and he saw Danny there in the midst of papers, and he got really mad and he broke Danny's arm. He just like grabbed his arm in a way that broke it really, really strong. It wasn't an accident, because first of all, once you, is that a spider? Oh my gosh, I think there's a spider. Oh my goodness, there's a spider. My husband is not home. That's okay. I don't think it's alive. Hopefully. Anyway, we're full of spiders, which is great for Halloween. But anyway, so where was I? Oh yeah, so once you choose to get drunk like this with your family, even though you know that you probably have a temper, and you put your hands on either your wife or your kid, then it's not really an accident anymore. You know what I mean? So, but he saw it as an accident. And yeah, so Wendy was really scared with good reason. And he was very apologetic. Jack was very apologetic, but we know that he's not that sorry about it. Because he thinks that it was an accident. And we each chapter is from someone's perspective. So you have Jack's perspective, Wendy's perspective, Danny's perspective, and another character's perspective. And you know that how they think, because it's not only from their perspective, but you have their thoughts in italics. So you know that he's not that sorry about it. But anyway, so yeah, by the time that Danny was 5, she decides to leave Jack. And he realizes that that's what's going to happen. And he thinks, well, if they leave, I know myself. Now I have no job. I have no prospect. I have nothing in my life. And I know that if they leave, I will probably die. So I don't want that to happen. And I don't want them to leave me, so I'll just stop drinking. And that's what he does. He stopped drinking completely, and got this job at the hotel, and they go. And it's horrible, as you can imagine, horrific. Oh my goodness. But it's just so good. It's so well written, and Stephen King is a master in ambiance, like creating this amazing, scary, spooky, but exciting ambiance. And it's just really, it's a page turner, basically. I was reading another book while I was reading this book, and the other book was more of like a study kind of thing that I was doing, and it was taking me so long to read like a chapter. In this book, I was reading it like really fast because it's so good. But anyway, so they go to the hotel, and weird things start to happen. First of all, they get there and they're introduced to some people. So one of the people that they're introduced to is Dick Halloran, who is the cook, and one of my favorite characters in the book, for sure. He's very sweet, and he quickly realizes that Danny is a special kid. So Danny has got something he calls the shining, or the shine. The shine. And if you have the shine, then you are shining, or you shine. So that's why the name of the book is The Shining. But what does it mean? It just means that you're special, that you can sense things, that you can read someone's mind, or that you just know that something's about to happen. You have those psychic, just telekinesis powers, basically. And Danny is like that. And we know too from the beginning of the book that Danny has this special friend who is a weird kind of imaginary friend, but not really. But we know that this kid whose name is Tony, this friend actually whose name is Tony, shows Danny the future, and Danny doesn't want to go to the hotel because he knows something bad is going to happen. But anyway, going back to the hotel, the cook of the hotel, Dick Halloran, is showing the kitchen, showing Wendy the kitchen and Danny, and they have a bond. And it's really nice. Like, this is one of my favorite things about this book, is this bond between Dick and Danny. But it's so strong that after the tour and before he goes away forever, just kidding, away for the time, for the winter, then he calls Danny to his car to have a talk with him. And he says, listen, you notice that there's something different here, right? That I can kind of read your thoughts and you can read mine. He explained to Danny what shining was, where the shine was, and Danny was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was only me. And it's super sweet to see him realize that it's not just him, and that he's not the weirdo, and that there are others like him, and it's really sweet. But Dick also mentions how the hotel is a bit spooky, and then he says, I know, I've seen things, like I've noticed. And Dick says, well, but don't worry, because if you see things, or if you see people that are not here, they won't be able to hurt you. They're just pictures in the book. And Danny was like, okay, no problem. But he says as well, Danny, if you need me, you scream really loud in my head. And they try it, and Dick kind of like almost faints because Danny's power is so strong. So Danny says, okay, no problem. If I need you, I'll scream and you come get me, come save me. And he was like, yeah, but nothing's gonna happen, I'm sure. Just forget about these things that happen at the hotel. Just stick to your quarters. So they have like this apartment for themselves. They have the kitchen that they can use. So they don't really have to be anywhere else in the hotel except for Jack, who needs to check the boilers and everything. And Danny was like, okay. So everyone leaves the hotel, and they're by themselves. And Jack starts spending a lot of time. At first, he only does the things that he's supposed to do. Like, he works on his blade, he checks the boiler all the time. Wendy and Danny are having an okay time going to town while the snow hasn't come in, to like pick up, Christmas presents and things like that, and stock on things that they like, whatever. They're okay in the beginning. But Jack starts spending way too much time on in the basement, just on this crazy research that he's doing on the hotel. And he finds this scrapbook of bad things that happened in the hotel. So we have murders, we have just like a lot of mob stuff happening in the hotel, like mafia people staying in the hotel and then killing people. And then we also have the story about the Grady guy, the caretaker guy who killed his family. And then you also have a really creepy story about the woman in the bathtub. And if you've seen the movie, you know about this woman in the bathtub. So yeah, she's in the book as well. And she was basically cheating on her husband, and she was there with this kid, and then the kid just leaves her there. She's an older woman, and the kid is like really young, apparently like 18 or so, and he just like bails on her, and she gets really down and kills herself in a bathtub. So that's the story. And then we know that not only Dick, but well, not really Dick, but a chambermaid, she was really scared one day because she went to this hotel not hotel, sorry, the hotel room, which is number 217, in the movie it's 237, but it's a different number. I don't know why. Maybe Stanley Kubrick thought that 237 sounded better than 217. But anyway, she goes in this, after the lady kills herself, she goes to the room and is terrorized by this lady. She sees the ghost in the bathtub, and then she tells Dick, and then Dick, I think he goes up there, but he doesn't see her, I think, but he feels her. I don't really remember, but Jack finds everything about that case, or maybe Mr. Ullman told him about it before, but anyway, I don't really remember. Danny, when they were all doing the tour of the hotel, Danny sees in one of the rooms, the room that was where the mob thing happened, he sees like brains scattered on the walls and blood everywhere, so Danny can see things that have passed. So it's super spooky, and Jack gets like obsessed with the hotel. And also, he's, like I said, he's a bit bonkers. So one day he just goes down to the town and calls Mr. Ullman and starts like blackmailing him on the phone and threatening him and saying like, oh, you didn't tell me anything about the hotel. And then Mr. Ullman was like, what? Like, do you think that I would tell everything about the hotel, all the bad things, to the caretaker who's going to stay there for like 6 months? Like, are you crazy? I totally agree with him. Like, why would you ever do that? And he's like, no, you should have told me. You just stood there, trying to put me down, trying to tell me that I wasn't good enough for this job, but this job sucks. And then Mr. Ullman was like, oh, I honestly, if you were up to me, I would just fire you right now, but since you have your buddy, I can't do that, but I'm gonna call him the moment that we hang up the phone. And Jack was like, I don't care, I'm gonna start writing a book on this hotel, and starts threatening Mr. Ullman. I was so, like, this moment I realized how crazy Jack was. Well, even before that, but he's very narcissistic and he only thinks about himself, like the whole book. That's Jack's personality. So then his friend calls him and says, like, what the heck are you doing? Stop doing whatever it is you're doing, like looking for, like doing this crazy research on bad things that happened to the hotel. Like they happened, but now just focus on your job. Just do your job. I got you this job. You got fired from the other job. I'm trying to get you back in that other job. And you're just so difficult. And anyway, I forgot to say that the friend also stopped drinking with him, which was great. And his friend just seems like a normal person. You know what I mean? Like helpful, wanting to help his friend. But Jack is already like gone off the rails. And then like slowly, the amazing part is of the whole book is Wendy realizing how crazy Jack is getting. And she's also like kind of freaked out by the hotel, but she doesn't know a lot. Like Danny's completely freaked out because, he sees things. They're like hedge animals outside that, attack people. He sees ghosts. He sees a bunch of things that are really, really scary. I won't like spend too much time talking about them, but it's quite spooky, very spooky. I had to read this book with all the lights on, especially because my husband works sometimes until late, and oh my gosh, all I wanted was to read the book because it was so good, but at the same time, all I wanted was to not read a book when it was really, really dark outside. So I had to have all of the lights on. But anyway, so it's really interesting to see Wendy realizing how crazy he's getting, and it starts by like him having a temper, but then something happens. Danny goes to the room that he's not supposed to go. Dick even talked about this with him, the room 217. And he goes there by himself, and he is attacked by the lady in the bathtub. So he comes downstairs, and Wendy and Jack are talking together. Jack has just had a fit and he broke the radio, the only contact that they have with the outside world. Or is it the telephone? Anyway, he broke something. I think it was the radio. And Wendy's there with him, like asking, are you okay? And then Danny comes downstairs with his neck all like purple, all bruised because the lady tried to strangle him. And Wendy just goes crazy and she starts yelling at Jack, saying that Jack did this to him. So she already, from this moment onwards, she knows that Jack is crazy, but she also knows that she needs him to get out of the hotel. Forgot to say, but they're snowed in, okay? Like probably 2 days before that, they got snowed in. There's snow everywhere. They cannot get out. They can only get out with the snowmobile, and Jack throws away the battery for the snowmobile. So they don't really have access to the outside world. He does that shortly after she basically accuses him of strangling Danny. And then Danny eventually says, like, no, it wasn't him, it was a lady in the bathtub. And I think she apologizes to him, and then he goes upstairs to room 217, and oh my goodness, it was even more scary than when Danny went upstairs and when he was attacked, because we see him kind of like being attacked or about to be attacked, but it's really scary, don't get me wrong, but it's even more when Jack goes, because he doesn't see her, but he hears things and he sees like a shadow. It is so scary, but then he comes back and he says there was nothing there, and Wendy's like, okay, what is happening? Like, then he is the one who did this to Danny, you know? Then he is attacking my son, and I need to be on his good side, so he gets us out of here, so I cannot act like I think that he's the one, you know, doing this. So Jack doesn't want to leave the hotel because he feels very attached to the hotel. He loves the hotel, so he decides to throw away the battery for the snowmobile. And then weird things start to happen. He starts like going to the bar and having conversations with the ghosts, and it's really scary. This part of the book, though, the part where the ghosts of the hotel are very like start to get active, and there are some ghosts that are weird. So this part is not my favorite. The hedge animals they're also like not great, and I think that's why Stanley Kubrick decided to take them out of the movie. But it wouldn't work on a movie either way. But this part of the ghosts, they're weird. They're like drunk people at this party. So they are always having this party, the ghosts, the party. I think it was a New Year's party, and they're always having this specific party. And then Jack and Wendy, they often find like party things like confetti and balloons and things like that in the hotel, and they're terrorized by the ghosts. So it's scary, it's super scary, but at the same time, it wasn't my favorite. I liked the lady in the bathtub a lot, like how scary that was. And then there was another ghost that oh my gosh, so creepy. But Jack becomes like friends with the bartender, and then Grady, the guy who murdered his family. And they apparently want Jack to be the new manager of the hotel. That's all like in his head. Well, not only because that's the main difference between the book and the movie, is because the book is mainly the movie is mainly how like it's a psychological horror movie, and it's on Jack and how crazy he gets. But in the book, there's actually things happening, so like actual ghosts and things like that. So yeah, we know that they want Jack to kill the family, basically his family. And they want Danny because Danny has special powers, and it's a bit weird, I have to say, but I liked it. Things get so bad that Jack ends up attacking Wendy, like we know that happens in the movie as well. He attacks, I don't know why I'm laughing, but he attacks Wendy. It's horrible. It's horrible. Sometimes when I'm nervous or when like something bad, anyway, I laugh. But anyway, he attacks her, and it's horrific, way worse than in the movie. Like, oh my goodness, what a horrible scene. If you are sensitive with like violence, maybe you shouldn't read this book because the scene is like crazy. And she locks him. Before that, she ended up locking him in the pantry because he had tried to attack her. He actually had tried to strangle her. He strangled her. She almost dies. And then her and Danny, they put him in the pantry and lock him. But then the hotel opens the pantry door, and then she goes downstairs just to check to see if he's still there. But the hotel opened the door. I think it was Grady that opened the door, and then he attacks Wendy. And then we have that amazing scene in the bathroom where he tries to go in and everything. It's really good. However, whilst all of this is happening, or a bit before, well, way before, like 2 days before, when things were already weird, Danny started screaming at Dick, asking for Dick's help. And Dick heard. And there are some amazing chapters on Dick trying to get to the hotel. It's awesome. Like, he takes a bite and then it doesn't work, and then he eventually does, and then anyway he gets there. And when he gets there, it's the moment that Jack is almost getting it. Well, if you haven't seen the movie and if you want to read the book, maybe stop the video now, but I'm just going to talk about the ending because I thought it was very interesting and it's different from the movie. But anyway, so when he's almost reaching, like getting to Wendy, Dick gets there and he hears the snowmobile, and it's a whole like odyssey for Dick to get to the hotel. It's awesome. I love those chapters. But then Jack just goes and attacks Dick, basically. So the difference is that in the movie, Dick dies, right? And he's not even that important in the movie. But in the book, he doesn't die. So that's great. I was very happy about that. It was a surprise, a good surprise, because I had only seen the movie before. So yeah. But then I'm not going to give like all the details, but the main difference at the end of the book and the end of the movie is that, well, it's actually quite interesting because in the movie, Jack follows Danny in the maze, which is awesome. Like that scene in the maze is amazing. We don't have that in the book. There's no maze in the book. And then he gets lost inside the maze, and then Danny ends up, fleeing, and meeting up with Wendy, and then they just leave the hotel. Dick dies inside the hotel, like I said, and Jack dies outside of the hotel in the cold, freezing cold. And like there's that really famous scene where he's like all frozen. And in the book, he dies because he forgets about the boiler. While everything is happening, he has to chase his family and kill his wife and then kill his son and all of that. He forgets about the boiler, so he goes down to turn off the boiler. And because if he forgets about the boiler, then the whole building explodes. So he does, and the building explodes with him inside. And Dick, Wendy, and Danny make it, so they just escape. And it's really good that they are healthy. And well, Wendy almost dies because she's completely broken, which is horrific in the book. Oh my gosh, like triggering for sure. But I understand why Stephen King didn't like the movie, because it's so different from the book. There's something also interesting. In the book, he actually writes a play. He's writing a play. He doesn't like the ending of the play. It's kind of like mirrored in his life. So he doesn't like the character, like one of the characters represent him, and then he doesn't like that character anymore. It's kind of, weird, but he actually writes a play. And in the movie, the most amazing scene is the scene where Wendy finds out that, well, actually the penny drops, right? She realizes how crazy Jack is when she sees that he is not writing a play. He's writing the same sentence over and over again. And he has like a stack of papers like this big, and it's the same phrase. And I think it's, what is it? I completely forgot. I'll put it here. All work, no play makes Jack a dull boy or something. All work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. I think that's what it is. But anyway, I'll put it here. And the moment that Wendy finds out, by the way, Shelley Duvall is amazing in this role. She's just perfect for it. But the moment that she realizes, it's amazing. I get goosebumps. It's so good. And I also liked that Wendy in the movie, she's like way sweeter than the Wendy in the book. But I feel like in the book, the characters are a bit like, have more depth maybe. And in the movie, it's like a 2-hour movie, right? So you have to like stay more on the surface, but I think it worked really well. And I think that Stanley Kubrick was a genius, actually, choosing what would work in a movie and what wouldn't work in a movie. So I find it way more interesting to watch a movie about a guy going crazy in a hotel than having like kind of crazy ghosts. There's like, at this point, there's like this ghost that is a man dressed in a doggy outfit. That is on the book, on the movie as well, but only one scene. There's like crazy scenes on the book where he chases Nanny. I don't like it. But although in the movie there are ghosts in the hotel, the focus is on how Jack is losing his mind. And it's a psychological horror. And in the book, it's really about the hotel and how the hotel possesses Jack. And there are so many things like the hedge animals that are kind of like a bit, I don't know, like they don't really work for me in the book. They're a bit scary, but it wasn't my favorite thing. And in the movie, it would never work. So the idea of the maze is way better. What else is different? Oh yeah, in the book, you don't really know Jack's backstory. You only know that he's no longer drinking. But he was never like fired or anything. I think he wasn't, at least. Danny's way more present in the book, and that's one of my favorite things about the book is how present he is. Like, he's a really sweet kid, and although someone said something about him being way too young to talk that way, I kind of get it because he's got The Shining, you know what I mean? And there's also some scenes of him like learning how to read. It's really sweet, and him. Sometimes he says a word that he thinks that like he's heard the word before, and then he repeats it and it's like written it, like spelled it wrong. And I really like his presence in the book. In the movie, he's amazing. The actor is so good. My goodness. But of course, there is not a lot of depth. I already said that Wendy's quite different in the book and in the movie. In the movie, there's no such a thing as like him calling the manager and like threatening him and saying that he's going to write something about the hotel. Dick dies in the movie because he's not that important, you know. So yeah, there are a lot of differences, and mostly that it's focused on Jack going crazy and wanting to kill his family. But it's amazing, and I'll say it again. Stanley Kubrick was a genius on choosing from the book what would work on the movie, and the movie is perfect. There's actually nothing wrong with the movie, in my opinion. It's a perfect movie from beginning to end. Acting is amazing. Jack Nicholson is like, my goodness, he's so good. He's just brilliant in it. And Danny the kid is also something interesting, actually. My husband looked it up and he said that Stanley Kubrick didn't tell Danny Doyle, forgot his name, that he was in a horror movie. He said it was a drama, so the kid wouldn't get traumatized, basically. I thought that was an interesting piece of information. And I did watch Stephen King's The Shining, the one from 1997. So the book is from 1980. No, sorry, the book is from 1977, the movie 1980, and then Stephen King with I forgot the name of the director, but anyway, with the director. He wrote the not the play, the script, and he I think he didn't direct it, but he like helped the director, I think. Anyway, he did this miniseries from 1997, apparently very faithful to the book, and people say it's not good, or at least it's not as good as the movie. And I haven't seen it. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe one day if I find it somewhere, because I try to find it on YouTube to rent and other places, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't even know where it's available. But yeah, to me, it was just amazing to read this book. The book is really good. It's up there with my top 3. Now my top 3 is Salem's Lot, Misery, and The Shining. And I loved the book, and I don't mind that they're so different. I like that there's more to it. You know, that you have one story and 2 different things, like the book and the movie, and that they're both great in their own way. So yeah, I talked a lot today, but I'm happy that I finally got to, you know, talk to you guys about it, because it was such a nice, spooky, scary book to read. Perfect for Halloween time. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon.